Hey, it's late. I know. I'm not gonna ask why you're awake. We both know it doesn't always have a clean answer. Sometimes there's a reason, and other times your brain just decides it's a good night to replay everything that's ever happened to us, right? And other times there's just pain, and we don't know exactly what it's from. Just that it gets kind of loud at 2 a.m. Whatever it is, I'm glad you put this on. You don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to fix anything or figure anything out. You don't have to be productive or positive or even okay. You can just be here, in the dark, with me. That sounded creepy, sorry. But that's it. That's the whole ask. We're just gonna talk for a while. Can I tell you something that took me a long time to understand? 2 a.m. is its own country. It has its own laws and its own gravity. Things that are perfectly manageable at 11 a.m. become enormous at 2. Thoughts that would take 30 seconds to dismiss during the day grow long roots in the dark and start to feel like facts. I promise you, the future, it looks different at 2 a.m. The past looks different. If you look in the mirror, you look different to yourself. I don't think enough people talk about how nighttime hours have a completely different emotion engine on. I know this isn't a video game, but still. The absence of noise and activity and distraction means that everything you've been successfully running away from all day, it finally catches up. I feel like no one talks about how the darkness has a way of being honest, which is sometimes useful, but most of the times, at least for me, just brutal. If you've ever felt crazy for feeling worse at night, you're not crazy. I think you're just a person. The whole species seems to do this. It always has done this. There are psalms written about it. There are poems from 1,000 years ago that read like they were written about. You're in very old, very large company right now. You are not the only person awake. Right now, as you're listening to this, someone in a city you've never been to is staring at the same ceiling you're staring at. Someone is sitting in a kitchen with a cup of tea they've forgotten to drink, looking at nothing. Someone has their phone on their chest and their eyes open. They're doing that thing where you're too tired to think, but too wired to sleep, and you're just kind of like in between. Someone is crying, and they're not entirely sure why, and they feel a little embarrassed about it, even though there's nobody there to see them. Someone is laughing at something stupid they found on the internet, because that's the only thing that works right now. There's someone out there praying. There's another one bargaining. And there's someone just breathing, slowly, trying to remember that breathing is enough. There are millions of people right now awake with you. The night makes us feel isolated, but we are, in this specific, strange way, together. All of us floating in the same dark, waiting for morning without quite knowing exactly how we're gonna get there. We are so much less alone than we feel. Let's just sit for a minute in whatever this is. I'm not going to be trying to fix it or reframe it or give you some steps to work on. Maybe we can just acknowledge it. Whatever you brought to 2 a.m. tonight, it's real. It definitely counts. If you're grieving something, a person, a relationship, a version of your life that didn't happen, that grief is legitimate. Grief doesn't have a schedule, and it doesn't care that it's inconvenient, and it absolutely does not care that it's a Tuesday night and we have things to do tomorrow. Grief shows up when it wants to, and it's not something to be managed or minimized. I think you have to move through it, and that takes as long as it takes. If you're anxious, if your mind is running scenarios and worst cases and what ifs in an infinite loop, trust me, I know how exhausting that can be. I know how it feels to be trapped in your own head, watching your brain generate disasters it isn't even sure are real, just unable to turn the volume down. I think that's a sign that our minds care very deeply, but they just don't have the right tools to do the job. But you don't have to buy these tools. You can learn them, just not at 2 a.m. Right now, we just have to get through 2 a.m. together. If you're lonely, genuinely, deeply lonely, in a way that isn't about whether people are around, but whether people really know you, I hear that. I get it. That kind of loneliness is one of the hardest things to carry because no one can see it. We can be surrounded by people and friends and animals and still feel it. And it often makes us feel like something's wrong with us. Like somehow we're just doing connection wrong. I don't think we are. Some people just feel things at a depth that it takes time to find the right company for. We haven't found all of our people yet, and that's not a verdict on us. It's just a matter of time and geography and I guess destiny. And if you don't know what it is, if it's just this ambient sadness or restlessness or a vague sense that something is off and you can't name it, that's totally fine too. Everything doesn't have a name. Sometimes the soul is just processing. And sometimes you're just reorganizing yourself at a level that the conscious mind just doesn't have access to yet. You don't have to understand things to let them happen. Just let them happen. Here's what I believe about the night. I think the dark hours are when the deepest parts of us do their most important work. I'm not talking about productivity stuff, or planning, or problem solving, but the other stuff, the integrating, the softening, the incredibly slow, completely invisible process of becoming, of transforming. Every spiritual tradition in human history has known this. The mystics went into the desert at night. The prophets received their visions in dreams. The dark night of the soul. That phrase comes from a 16th century Spanish mystic named John of the Cross, and he used it to describe the necessary, terrifying, and ultimately sacred experience of feeling completely lost and completely alone right before something new is born in you. The dark isn't the absence of the divine. In a lot of traditions, the dark is where the divine does its most intimate work. In the silence and stillness, and the moments when you're just completely stripped down, when you're unguarded and open. I don't think 2 a.m. is a punishment. We're being invited not to suffer or spiral, but just be present with ourselves in a way that daylight hours don't always allow. To feel what you actually feel, to hear the stuff under the noise, to be, for a few hours, just a human being instead of a human doing. I want to tell you something I actually mean. You are going to be okay. And I know coming from a stranger in a mask, that can sound pretty hollow at 2 a.m. It sounds like a thing people say when they don't know what else to say, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, let's look at what you've already survived. Every hard night you've ever had, you got through. Every 2 a.m. that felt like it might last forever eventually became 3 a.m. and then 4 a.m. and then somehow, and probably, morning. Every single time, without exception. Your track record for surviving difficult nights is perfect. 100%. It is actually the one area of your life where you've never failed. So chances are you're going to get through this one too. And slowly, not all at once or in a way that you can force or schedule, things are going to shift. They always do. Things don't necessarily get easier, but you end up getting different. When you become more acquainted with your own darkness and less terrified of it, you become able to sit in it without believing that this is permanent. I know it sounds like toxic positivity, but it's just what happens when you keep showing up for yourself, which you're doing right now, just by being here. You don't have to figure anything out tonight. Whatever the question is, it'll definitely still be there in the morning, and you will be better equipped to meet it when you've slept. The decisions can wait. The conversations can also wait. The plans and the fixes and the responses. Honestly, all of it can just wait. Right now, the only thing you need to do is rest. So if you can, put the phone face down. Let this play or don't. Let your eyes close. Let your body be heavy. You've been holding yourself together all day, and you don't have to do that anymore tonight. I know we're tired. You're allowed to just be a person going to sleep. You're supposed to be tired. You're allowed to be still, and you can breathe. You're allowed to take up that space in the dark, and you're not by yourself. I'm right here, like not in your room, but here, where I am. Okay, good night.